Boom, boom. Welcome, Earthlings. This is Aaron Abelman. My pronouns are he, him, they, them, and I'm recording this from the original territories of Huichin, ancestral land of the Chochenyo Ohlone, otherwise known as the Bay Area. I'm so hyped to be dropping in for this Welcome to Earth podcast. Most importantly, I'm really grateful that you're here. Whether you're making food, you're on a road trip, you're just looking to improve your relationship with yourself, your family, and the world, this is the place to be because you are the place to be. I know you're probably wondering, what is this show all about? And is it going to be about aliens? So if the little beings that contain our DNA yet have their own personalities and mission are considered aliens, then your guess was totally correct. But anywho, this podcast, for real, Welcome to Earth, Adventures in Modern Family Life, was inspired by my daughter and my journey of becoming the best father and guide I can be. So with that, I really hope you'll enjoy these conversations, this storytelling, and this magical adventure. I'll see you on the other side. Peace. All right. Let's jump into today's episode, exploring the wild, magical, transformative, difficult, incredibly powerful journey of being a parent. What can I say? Parenting is not an easy job. In fact, I've heard it said that if you're complaining about something, you can always say, well, at least it's not as hard as parenting. But it can be an incredibly fun, inspiring, and of course, creative job as well. From figuring out how to have those hard conversations with your kid to taking care of the house, to being a present parent in this digital age. We're all just learning as we go. And being a parent is probably the greatest gift I have ever received. I wrote this book, Welcome to Earth, Love Letters to My Child and Practices for Families, really to metabolize the unbelievable responsibility of having a new one around. And I wanted to share something to start with. This is day 32 from the book. My daughter was 32 days old. When is now, no end, no beginning. You are 1 month young today, and I feel like I just won a FIFA World Cup. I'm sweaty, unshaven, out of breath, underslept, looking like a cross between a Wolverine and a Sasquatch playing center midfield. The fact that we've survived such a menacing and awesome moon cycle is both comedic and triumphant all at once. Here we are, learning to live and laugh together like someone just gave us the ring from Lord of the Rings, but we have no idea how powerful or challenging it would be to take care of it. Luckily, the biological caretaking instinct kicks in just as we commit to keeping on. 1 cup of coffee and or E3 Live at a time. The practice isn't perfect here says, write a recurring reminder on your calendar for every day, the entire next year that reads, I love myself, I'm a miracle, I carry something powerful to offer this precious life. And I share that because it is a very, very difficult job. Just, of course, those first couple months of taking a child into this world. I remember, the entire pregnancy, preparing, rubbing my partner's feet at night, getting her flowers, trying to just love her up, cook her meals, being this devoted father, and yet also just devastated about this, the shedding of my old self that no longer was my life about myself. this life was now about serving and supporting others, which, for men, I think, just to make a wild generalization, men are selfish. I guess boys are selfish, men are selfless and giving, if you wanted to put it in those terms, because we are lifting up the nurturing father, this new divine father archetype that is very much about service. But for me, that transformation was profound. Even someone that is an activist and caring for the world and doing things for others and, community organizing and all of the things I was doing. And yet it was difficult to really prepare myself fully for the responsibility of service to my new family. So I mention all of that because it is so important that as new parents, especially, we do a good job of resourcing ourselves and staying nourished in our own heart and mind, of having a daily practice of finding joy in this new life that we're both inhabiting and that we're welcoming into the world. And that really brings me to this story of, as I was initially sharing, that there's this 9 months that you have to prepare for the baby, right? And we found out we were pregnant, and it was just upheaval and joy, and also grieving, right? This simultaneous praise and grief going on around, wow, we're bringing a child into this world at this time during the 6th mass extinction, with climate change, with institutional racism, with gender inequities, with wars and the destabilization of much of the world's politics, and just how unbelievably crazy it felt. And so we went through this 9 months of mental and physical preparation with all of the day-to-day. And, you make it to that 9 months, and of course, mama's doing the hard job. Let me just stop there and just give a big shout out to all the actual womb birth carriers, the one that carry the babies. Wow, y'all are just my heroes, heroines of the most supreme, and that power of creation, and also the sacrifice, the physical sacrifice of literally growing another mammal in your body. What an unbelievable gift and sacrifice. And so I would be remiss if I really didn't start with that, because absolutely we are all indebted to our mothers, whatever that formation and however that happened for you. Of course, that can be a million different expressions of it, but we are all indebted to our mothers. So let me just give a big shout out to all the moms out there. Keep rocking, keep going. And yeah, ask for your partner to rub your feet and to get you flowers, and, to love you up in all those ways, as I was saying. And for those 9 months for us, when, my daughter was coming, I was just, I was going through so much. It was such a huge preparation. And for me, I know that I already was there and dedicated, and yet still was getting over my selfishness and my grudges, or my anger about the world, or things that I hadn't done, or dreams that I still wanted to achieve. And yet through all of that was this blessing of new life that I was responsible for. And that is a very deep and ancient commitment, a deep and ancient agreement with God, with life, with the power of regeneration, the power of procreation. And so we finally got to that day, and I remember it was just like yesterday. And probably I'll say that forever, until my kid is rolling her eyes as a teenager, and until we grow up together. Yeah. But look, 4 a.m., 4 a.m. in November of 2016, a wild and absolutely devastating time for American politics, if you lean that way. But yeah, this was 10 days after 45 had come into power. And wow, my daughter woke my partner up with with this incredible kick, and her water had broke, and it was 4 a.m. in the morning, and I knew my life would change forever. I don't even have words. It was so deep. So I called the midwife, a nurse midwife, and they immediately said, okay, go back to sleep until you actually can't rest anymore. And we went into labor. It was such a long process. It was 36 hours from that moment to the actual baby for me catching my daughter. And I don't necessarily want to go into all of the wild, gross, dirty details, but just to say that this was such a profound, transformative day. And I couldn't believe, oh my God, this was the day I'd been waiting for, and on and on and on. And finally I catch the baby, and it's this victorious triumph, and all the heavens parted, and I saw visions of the angels and light bringing my daughter from another dimension, it felt like, into my arms like a salmon out of the cosmic river. And unbelievably, she had this piercing scream. It was wail. It felt like all of the creatures of the sea and land just wailed in the smallest little conehead girl. And I could not believe how primal it was. And of course, lots and lots of different factors that go into all of that, and lots of different stories with each moment of those 36 hours. But I remember, just being exhausted, not having slept for basically 2 days, 3 days. And of course, in the preparation leading up to this Labor Day. And then that night, no sleep. My daughter was, basically she wouldn't rest at all unless she was either on her mom's bosom there, or she was in my arms. But I was just trying to help my partner get rest. And it was just so deep. And literally, the next weeks and weeks of no sleep, and just unbelievable sacrifice to keep this being alive and nourished, and to keep my partner alive and nourished because of the hardships that we faced during that experience. And I just realized, wow, am I ever going to sleep again? That was my thought. And one of the things I wish I had known, and why I'm sharing all of this gross detail, is because, you go through that 9 months and you don't even think that, you don't realize how little sleep is and how physically taxing it's going to be. And that's from a father's perspective. So I can only imagine for moms out there. And that's the beginning, the early raw moments. And the main thing I would say, the message I have for that time, for those first couple months, once the baby is there, that postpartum time, is just really do your best to stay courageous and strong, and know that it's all literally it's all passing. It's impermanent. And so the beauty and the joy and the miracle of it, even in its hardship and the physical taxation, make sure you can stay with the beauty as much as possible, even while feeling so at your wit's end, or exhausted in that way. And just continue, keep going, persevere, make sure that you're well nourished, make sure that you're getting sleep wherever you can, that you're really sequestering yourself. Like you talk, the world is in quarantine during this pandemic right now, but that's actually a parent's experience. In those first 40 days, just hunker down. There's different rituals and traditions from all over the world that express that time as sacred and so profound. And just plan nothing for months if you can. That would be my recommendation. And then as you start to adapt and realize that this new being is here to stay, then's the time to really start to cultivate and support yourself and resource yourself with the literature, with whatever educational videos, with parent groups. Make sure that you're reaching out to other folks, maintaining community and friendship, even if it's just moral support, is so crucial for that beginning stage. And as you continue to move forward in time, you just naturally realize, wow, I think I grew another heart, literally.
Before we get into that, though, I wanted to take a moment for all the parents out there. If you're anything like my family, we struggle with the post-apocalyptic news and stresses of our modern, uncertain world. We often need help communicating, taking time away from it all, or simply processing everything in compassionate ways for ourselves. That's why I've developed this toolkit of self-care products created for the modern family. From a parenting journal with a year's worth of mindful prompts, to family organic tree growing kits, to family dance party music, my team and I are so honored to offer these fun and valuable gifts to you and your family at this time. Plus, you're gonna love the book that started it all and the companion coaching program for those who wish to be a guide for others in this critical work. More on that soon, though. Anyways, please hop over to my website, aaronabelman.com, to take a look at my offerings and products for you and the kids.
I think my love may have exponentialized to infinity. And whatever your life looks like and whatever you're going through, boom, I'm here for it, because my child is demanding of me this degree of hope, this degree of commitment, this skin in the game. You know what I mean? You can't give up on life. And that's one of the most beautiful things about parenting. In fact, my partner, she was the one that really gave me that bit of wisdom. She said, with all that's going on with the destruction of the planet and, the attack on immigrants and Black folks, BIPOC, the attack on Jews, all of that's going on in the world right now. Oh my God, my kid, she just won't let me give up. There's no way to give up. So this is the beautiful Zen of parenting, is this higher commitment, it's the spiritual practice of being a parent that asks us to be the best that we can be every day, to not give up on life, to not give up on the glory and beauty of this incredible responsibility. And as humans, I think maybe we all need that, right? But especially for parents, with how much hardship we go through. And for the most part in society, parents are kind of just seen as like, often as the problem. I know, as kids grow up, they're like, oh yeah, my parents did this, and then having to go to counseling forever because of what our parents did. So in a way, you're stepping up and leaning in and being a voice and I guess just a presence of hope and daily fortitude, that's probably going to benefit your child as well in the long run. It's not only good for you, but it's good for the child. So whatever is good for you is good for the child. And I just want to say that there is a critical piece here around what and why are we alive? And that's one of the revelations for me as a parent, especially as a new dad, was, wow, I think I did find the purpose of life. It might not be true for every dad or every parent, but my purpose is to care for life and to support it and to protect it and to do my best to really help life, foster life, create life. And that's a really big deal. And of course, life expresses itself in trillions of ways. There's no one right way of living. And yet fostering and supporting life as a parent, to me, really gave a depth of purpose and conviction that I don't think I ever experienced. Even, I've had a pretty wild and weird life. My childhood growing up was fascinating because my parents were so amazing and so loving and so incredibly unconditional and present. And I'll share a little bit of my childhood, maybe because it's a good reminder that where we come from is also what we're giving to the next generation. And yeah, I was born in the early 80s, actually a couple months after Bob Marley died. I don't know why that I always like to mention that, just because, Bob Marley is a hero of the world and mine too. But 1981, October 2nd, Groucho Marx's birthday, also Gandhi's birthday. And I was born in Michael Douglas's basement, which is a bizarre, random string of events. My parents had met at a Back to the Land community in the Central Coast of California, actually through Yogananda and his teachings around yoga and Eastern mysticism, East meets West mysticism on the land. And they left in love. They fell in love there and they left and answered a random ad in the paper. Turned out it was Michael Douglas, the actor, and his estate in Montecito. So my parents were gardening and cooking for him, working class, but in this very wild, affluent environment. I was born in the basement at sunrise, which is what my name means, first light. My dad also delivered me, and it was a swift birth, actually very different than my daughter's. I was born in something like 5 hours, popped out. And actually Michael Douglas named me, and there was a lot of Hollywood around me, the kids of Hollywood growing up. But when I was about a year old, we moved to a small farm that became an urban farm. It was called Fairview Gardens, the Center for Urban Agriculture. And I was raised deeply connected to the natural world, to food systems and to the farm working communities of the world. My father's work as an author and farmer and storyteller was very deeply connected to my own purpose and so much of my work in the world. And my mother, as a humanitarian and a public healthcare nurse who took me to Nicaragua during the war, at the end of 22 years of civil war in Nicaragua, that was actually an incredibly transformative experience to see the disparities between nation states, the affluence of California versus the struggles of the poverty and war-stricken world of Nicaragua, and yet the spiritual beauty of these people really stuck with me as, wow, maybe we don't need much physical things to be happy, because my friends at the orphanage in Nicaragua were actually happier than most of my friends back home who had a mansion and were just gifted with every possible advantage. So that spiritual poverty back home with material wealth was inverted in Nicaragua. And those were some very seminal events for me growing up. But coming back to my own relationship with my parents, my father was a genius and very hardworking, but workaholic, and wasn't often always 100% available to me emotionally. So I was like any son to his father, wanting his father's approval, wanting to connect emotionally, and yet not necessarily knowing how to do that. And when I became a teenager, a lot of my rebelliousness and my revolutionary tendencies came forward. I think in large part because I didn't have that emotional connection to my father all the time. But it ebbed and flowed, and it wasn't always that I felt undernourished in that way. I think that it's difficult in this society for men especially and their fathers to connect emotionally and to build that kind of vulnerability and that level of connection. With my mother, on the other hand, she was just pure love and just pure giving in her spirit. And yet sometimes I wondered if I take advantage of that generosity. These are questions that I think every coming of age child probably asks in different ways. And I think that, maybe the constellation of your family affects that, whether you're an only child or you're with a big posse of siblings. Again, family life is such an adventure, and there's a million different forms of it. I think the hardest thing for me, though, was when my parents divorced at 9 years old. And it was just at a certain time when I didn't quite understand. And there was a fall from grace in that sense. And I processed that in many ways, but the good fortune of having a depth of connection to the natural world and a love for just being in the trees or being with my soccer ball or being with an instrument, having creative outlets that were offered to me and instilled in me as a part of my childhood from my parents allowed for me to face some of those, because there's going to be challenges in any life, whether it's a divorce or a death, God forbid, or loss of a house, or maybe, there's a million different factors as to what the vicissitudes we face as children and how those are processed by our family. If we're so lucky as to have 2-parent household or not, how our parents are processing and metabolizing those changes, that is what's the learned behavior then that we adopt as children into our adulthood. And for sure, a lot of my resilience and my commitment and my courage to face challenges and failures in my life, whether it's in the workplace or, because I got an athletic and academic scholarship after going to a remarkable high school out in the woods based on Thoreau and Emerson, chopping wood for hot water, yet right across the street from Michael Jackson's Neverland Ranch. My childhood was kind of a movie, so I won't go into the details now and give away the ridiculous plot lines, but just to say that I went through so much, and as I came of age and became an adult, my passion for my craft as a writer and artist, actor, working in film and working in the theater, and as well, writing for different publications and then performing, and my commitment to the earth, given my upbringing and connection to the farm. And we actually had to fight to save that farm, and actually became a national story for small farms across the country. The Center for Urban Agriculture was a seminal legal fight. So all of these very diverse experiences growing up, I think that what I learned was most profoundly from my parents was how to be resilient to change and how to go through ups and downs and still hold a sense of faith and a sense of commitment. And that was modeled from my parents more than it was said or taught to me, even though it was said and taught as well. But I think the best teaching I'm trying to get at for parents is just modeling what you wish for your children. And of course, articulating that in words and other ways. But first and foremost, be that yourself, right? How do we be that ourselves and then bring that out, in more verbal ways for our kids? And I think that's how the world changes. I really do. I think that the world is changing every day, and it's going to happen in parent-child relationships. So here we are, my dear. Good timing. My little one just arrived. Come here. I want to introduce you to everyone. Come. This is Chaya. She has her ball gown, princess outfit. Whoa, look at the painting. This is beautiful. And she's an artist. She sings, she paints, she dances. She's incredible. She's so kind. She's so loving. And she is really my inspiration and my hope and my prayer for the next generation. Do you want to say anything to the parents out there or to anybody? You want to say hi? You can talk to the mic if you want. You want to say, oh, you want to sing one of the songs that you know? Not right now?
Keep that crown here.
Okay, I'll keep the crown right here. So this is real. This is life as a parent. You get interruptions. There's all sorts of demands left, right, and center. It's just endless. It's endless blessings, endless challenges, endless ups and downs. So the more we can model that resilience is what I'm trying to get at, model that adaptability and that grace. And so that's the current episode on parenting today. I hope that you've enjoyed some of my ramblings. I know it was a little bit of a ramble, trying to get out a lot and share a little bit of my personal story, and also just to invite you all to be the best that you can be for your kids. They deserve it and you deserve it. And here we go. All right. Thank you so much for being on this ride with me and for taking this adventure today, for being here for yourself, for your family, next generation. And join me next week as we dive into more amazing topics in the parenting journey. You won't want to miss it. And in the meantime, give us a follow on Instagram and Facebook. Welcome to Earth Show and at Aaron Abelman for more parent-friendly, kid-approved content. Yep, this is Aaron Abelman, your guide to the Welcome to Earth podcast, officially unplugging, y'all. Thank you so much for being here. Peace.
Well, Earthlings, that's all I have for you today. Thank you for being on this ride with me. And more than that, thank you for being here for yourselves, your family. The next generation appreciates you. Join me next week as we dive into more amazing topics in everything family. You don't want to miss it. In the meantime, give us a follow on all the socials at Welcome to Earth Show and at Aaron Abelman for more parent-friendly, kid-approved content. This is Aaron Abelman, your guide for the Welcome to Earth podcast, officially unplugging. Peace.